You're listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense with your host, Doug Thorpe. Here's Doug.
Hello again, everyone. You're listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense. I'm Doug Thorpe, and today I've got a great opportunity to explore a subject that is near and dear to me, partly because I'm a sufferer, and I'll explain more later, but it also impacts most of my clients, and that idea is about the clutter and chaos that's in your life, in your head, in your business. My guest is a lady named Kitti Andrews. She is an expert in this area. Kitti, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Doug. I've been looking forward to this.
Kitti and I have had some great fun in the lead up and the preparation for this show. She's got some great stories about her background and her move in this direction. And right before we hit the record button, we were talking about the challenge of executives, business owners, and pretty much any of us today. Our world is running at a faster pace than ever. There are so many options, so many opportunities. There's so much information coming to us. We build this clutter in our lives. Sometimes it's physical and manifested in the trinkets around us. But the big one, and this is the one I really want to hit on today, is the head trash, the junk going on in between your ears, and the maze and mass of content that's swirling around, not allowing clear, productive thought to emerge so that you can accomplish the goals you're really intending to achieve. So that's a whole lot of mouthful, Kitti. And I always like to start by asking my guests to explain to the audience a little bit about their journey on how they got to where they are right now and what inspires you to do the work you're doing now.
Oh, well, thank you for asking that, because it's a bit of a strange journey. But you know, we've all seen those pictures of the little kid very carefully stacking the building blocks, right, and being very precise about it. Well, that was me. I don't know if there was a touch of autism there or what, but that's how I started. Where we'll fast forward to when I had my first office job, and I didn't really feel like organization was a massive priority to me. I felt like a reasonably normal child, but I was promoted from a file clerk in an office. You remember old-fashioned paper files? Yeah, that's how far back we're talking. And one of the ladies from that where I used to do the filing, she came to me and she said, "Would you consider coming back and working with us part-time? Because when you were here, we could find things. You were the best file clerk we ever had." And then moving on into many years in the restaurant business, I was voted, and I also volunteered to organize the walk-in fridge so that people could find things, because you know you're busy, you're in the middle of a lunch rush, and you just throw everything back, right? And I loved doing that, making it so that you could see where everything is, because a little bit of ADHD gets me confused if I'm looking for things and frustrated, and why isn't it where I'm looking for? The sour cream is supposed to be right here, kind of thing. And then it morphed into a cleaning business. And this is where it gets interesting, an 18-year cleaning business where I always felt compelled to kind of rearrange things in someone's house. And I'm not talking furniture, although I was tempted, but, you know, maybe move a couple of things that were on the TV stand, just to make I didn't know anything about feng shui at the time, but it just felt better. It just felt less cluttered. And then that one translated into, once I knew that I didn't want to be an elderly cleaning lady anymore, frankly. And the wonderful world of decluttering for real estate sales happened, and that morphed into virtual, which was described to me as a less intrusive by a realtor, as a less intrusive, more focused way to get rid of 30 years of insert noun there. And that has stayed. And
Yeah.
even that has morphed.
Yeah. Well, as you and I spoke earlier, there is a higher velocity of opportunity to collect clutter of all kinds, little nebulous factoids that are scrolling on your phone, and all the way to tangible possessions. And in the realm of business, the temptation, as is popularly called, to chase the bright, shiny object. And in my experience, there's nothing more dangerous than an entrepreneur who has built their business to a certain point and actually has some cash in the bank, and they get really tempted to start really branching out and doing these other things. And it's like, no, stop, perfect and grow what you've got, before you think about some tangential new venture or new thing. And until you're a multi-millionaire, then you can start thinking about being a true serial entrepreneur. So I kind of jammed a lot in there, but let's talk about some of the basic. Maybe we ought to talk about the symptoms first. When somebody is cluttered and they're living in chaos, what are some of the symptomatic evidence that you're in that space?
I can use myself as an example, if you will, because it comes to mind right away. On the weekends, I end up my Sunday. The kitchen counter is tidy. Everything is reasonably tidy. We all accumulate stuff. No one is perfect, but it's reasonably tidy. By Wednesday, after 3 12-hour days, by Wednesday night, I'm noticing a little bit of clutter. I'm noticing that it's not as lemony fresh as it was on Sunday night. And I clear it up, and the next 2 days are super productive again. And that has happened with my clients, and with me. And all I can think is there is a definite correlation between physical and mental clutter, and which comes first, however, which is the chicken and which is the egg. And we have never been able to. I've asked so many people, and no one has really been able to answer that question. I really think that, and perhaps you would agree, that everything starts between the ears, one way or the other.
Well, in my early life, as many of my listeners know, I was a banker, and specifically I was a real estate banker. And now that I've turned executive coach and business advisor, I tell people the most expensive and hardest to manage piece of real estate in the universe is the 6 inches between your ears.
Yep.
It's also the most valuable piece of real estate you'll ever own if you can get it right. And so it does. And I've always said I'll commit to memory. There's that adage, something about what you think and what you do and I don't know. There's a whole long progression of how our thought.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Our success.
Yeah.
And even though I can't say it correctly, I think it's true. What we end up thinking does predict and manifest our success. So if your thought process is cluttered, and maybe with that the environment around you is cluttered, you've got sticky notes everywhere on your desk or on your phone or on your person, and you've got little tidbits of paper here and there reminding you of things, or you've just got a whole lot of extra junk. And I'm kind of sitting here thinking, I'm looking around my little environment here, and I'm like, well, it's pretty well organized. I did some work this weekend to clean up the studio and clean up some things, but this is where I do everything. So all of my stuff, books, notes, pads, phones, other devices, all the trinkets of electronics, all the things we do. It's all right here, and I have to go through a discipline periodically of getting the shovel out and cleaning it up and getting it organized. And there is an element, and I too will reflect personally, there's an element of feeling more productive when it's organized and you've got everything in its right place, and it's easy to find, easy to get to, and it's just not cluttered. Clutter is the only word for it.
Yeah, and clutter breeds frustration, breeds less confidence in yourself, less of a feeling of control, and of course that comes through when you're about to meet and people are usually surprised when I say this, that comes through when you meet with either a potential client or your existing client or anyone that you're doing business with. They can sense that you're not feeling you're not feeling on top of things, and they may play on that in the worst case scenario, and if not, still it just kind of undermines their confidence. So you may lose a repeat customer because they don't have as much faith in you as they could.
I think you raise a good point, and what I've seen manifested is someone who is dealing with the frustration of the clutter and the chaos that's going on either in their head or in their immediate sphere of influence around them. When they do have to venture out and have that outside meeting, whether it's with a vendor, a customer, a colleague, there's an air of frustration that's going on, and if you're the other person, you're sitting there going, "What did I do? What
Right.
Why is this? I didn't do anything." And it disrupts the opportunity for a good, productive exchange there in that moment.
It really is. When I started down this road about is mental clutter really that important? Frankly, I looked at myself first. We were talking off air about productivity and 300 emails and all of this kind of stuff. And would you agree with me that it's gotten significantly worse since COVID because we've become so reliant on technology? So everything is. We had emails before, but I just feel that it's compounded, that everything is all about digital. And if you like me were not born with a computer in your mouth, it takes us that much longer to that millisecond to process it effectively, again contributing to more mental clutter. So I believe that if we can simplify little decisions, everyday decisions, and perhaps have a routine, we can chat about that if you like, that it can leave more room frankly, more mental energy. The little iPhone battery at the top of your brain there, it leaves more of that to concentrate on doing what you're supposed to be doing, serving your client. Yes?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that idea of routine. I've had other guests on this show that have advocated for, morning routine, daily routine, etc. What I have tended to do with my clients, my favorite word when we start talking about this is intentionality. And whatever it is you think you want to go do, whatever this big, hairy, audacious goal is that you've got out in front of you, the only way you're going to achieve that goal is to be intentional. As the old adage says, how do we eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. Well, that's implied intentionality. I'm going to choose where I'm going to bite next, and I'm going to be specific about where I'm going. So I think some degree of routine in the day helps facilitate that. So how do you think about routines like that?
I think that, and a good question. You mentioned a morning routine and a daily routine. frankly, I believe, I'm a devotee of Darren Hardy, who espouses the morning routine and the evening routine. During the day, it might go a little sideways. There's a good chance, but with my clients, that's how we start. Is I ask them, okay, walk me through your day. What's your day look like? What time do you get up? Oh, I don't know, sometimes 7, sometimes 8. And I'll give them the kitty stare and they go, oh, okay, we have to work on that, do we? I won't run you through my routine, but it is a specific routine to the minute for that first 4 hours. And there's a nap in there. I have a little nap because it's intense writing in the morning, and I'll have that little nap. But then after about, and I'll write till about 11 o'clock. And then after that, if it's clients, if it's whatever it is, that's okay. I've gotten the important things done.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can take a lot of discipline to say, all right, what is the most important thing? Well, I have a book chapter due today. That is the most important thing. And that is what got done this morning. You were the next important thing. Okay, we'll get that done. The rest of the afternoon, things will get done. And you may feel a little bit of mid-afternoon fatigue, and that's when you want to schedule something that takes no brain power, like filling in your calendar, or just using your brain power for its optimum purpose at the right time of day. And that is always whenever you get up, it's the first couple of hours of your day. Would you agree?
I share with my clients this idea that, we all share one common commodity, every human being on the face of the earth. And the one thing we have in common that's undeniable, we each have the same number of seconds in the day.
Yeah.
And, even the air we breathe varies depending on where you live and what you're exposed to and all of that. But that 86,400 seconds in the day is undeniable. And there's a word picture that has described this thing about prioritization, and Stephen Covey made it probably most popular, but I had seen it even before him. It's the story about rocks, pebbles, and sand, and it's a large jar sitting there, and if you take a quantity of sand and fill in first, and then you sprinkle some pebbles in, and then you put some big rocks in, you can't get all the big rocks in the jar. It overflows, and you're not able to do that. But if you switch your approach, you take the same jars, same rocks, put all the rocks in first. Those are the big things you need to get done. Then you fill in the pebbles. Those are the little necessary things, like, run to the pharmacy, run to the store, whatever, those kind of things. And then you pour in the sand, and that's the 300 emails a day you might have to answer. You'll be surprised you get it all done. It all fits in the jar. But the key to it is handle the big rocks first. And as painful as it may be, and as difficult as you anticipate those things may be, get them done first. And sometimes, to be clear, a big rock is just that bite you have to take out of the elephant. Today is bite number 394. But I got to take that bite to keep my elephant moving. And that's a big thing. So get that done first. And then you will still find time to answer the 300 emails. But you flip the whole idea on that. And I have shared that. There's a lot of YouTube video references to the word picture and the way the story plays out, but it's a very meaningful. There's a college professor. He put his own twist on it, and he had a bottle of beer at the end of it. He put everything in there, and then he poured the beer over it, and of course it all went in. And And college student said, well, okay, I get the rocks. The student said, all right, I get the rocks, pebbles, and sand. What's the beer for? And he said, well, you always ought to have a beer with a friend. So, but I think it's important, and back to what you were saying a moment ago, blame it on the pandemic or the advent of technology, I don't know. I think it actually started even before the pandemic. We've allowed the pace of business and the pace of our own lives to accelerate way beyond what we were once used to. And there is not that much free time in the day unless you make it. And there's a guy I follow. His name's Michael Hyatt. He's a virtual mentor, and he's done a lot of great work. He's former CEO of a large publishing company, and one of the things he talks about is, as business leaders and community leaders even, we need to figure out how to build margin in our life. We talk about increasing margin in our business, profit margin. Yeah. But we need to find ways to build time margin in our lives so that maybe we can do some more with the family. Maybe we can be home for dinner. Maybe we can take that trip with the kids, or, have that special moment with your spouse. If you don't have margin in your day, you can't do that. None of it's there.
Absolutely. And that's I couldn't have said it better, and that's where the routine comes in to a certain extent. And of course, entrepreneurs, you need to put food on the table. So perhaps identifying what is, and I'm not saying anything new here, but identifying what is going to put food on your table. Now, part of mine is content for visibility. So that goes out first thing, 6 o'clock. That is when it's good. 5 your time. I believe it goes out first thing, and then what's the next thing that's the most important? And the most important, I guarantee you, out of those 300 emails, there may be 10, and we all suffer from email osis, right? Or there's just way too much of it. There may be 10 or 15 that absolutely have to be dealt with. Right. The rest of them, and I'm talking about if you have multiple email accounts, which I'm sure you do as well, and you've got that one special one that isn't supposed to be crowded with anything other than, in my case, declutter the brain business, and somehow things just manage to creep in there. And I use a color coding system, so I'll know what needs to be dealt with and what does not, because boy, you can ever go down a rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa!
Yeah. Well, even just the idea of clearing out your inbox and tagging all the junk and deleting them, that takes time. You could easily consume a 30-minute window in your day just doing that. And if you do that 3-4 times a day, guess what, my friend? You've burned a big chunk, 25% of your day doing just that. And what's the value in that? So it is so important. And for some reason, as I'm thinking here, I'm reminded, and I've told this story before, my college roommate was a career military guy. He retired after 32 years as a brigadier general from the Army. But before he retired, he had been in Desert Storm and Desert Shield and all those actions that our military went through. And I was visiting with him at his home in Washington, D.C. We had dinner. We were sitting out on his patio, and I looked at him and I said, Bill, you are the most calm human being I've seen in a long time. How in the world, with what you've had to deal with, how in the world can you be so incredibly calm? And he said, it does boil down to a simple truth. I ask myself 2 questions. When I feel the pressure building, I ask 2 questions. He said, is my family safe? And is anybody around me dying? And I went, whoa. And he said, if the answers to those questions are yes and no, yes, my family's safe. No, nobody around me's dying. I'm good. Nothing else matters.
Now that is prioritizing at its highest level. Wouldn't you say that's
And
very
I
good.
thought, wow, that is very profound. And of course, coming from a military leader with many combat ribbons on his chest, he's seen it. He's been there. He knows the reality of what that means. And I think to extrapolate that, I think that's where a lot of modern day business leaders get balled up. They think that what they're doing is that life and death situation, and it seldom is.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, okay, there are businesses where people's lives could be at risk, heavy manufacturing, chemical processing, construction. I mean, there are jobs that if you're not following good safety protocols, people can get injured and perhaps killed. So yes, there's that. But that's such a unique percentage of the whole scheme of things. Most entrepreneurs I know aren't anywhere close to that kind of risk and that kind of damage, yet they live their lives as though they are.
Right.
And everything's a push, everything's, an emergency, and there's that incredible, and I think that creates a lot of clutter in and of itself.
Oh yes. Oh yes. And you mentioned boundaries before. We feel like we should. I used to go through all of my whatever new emails and messages on the phone and this and that and the other thing. And I thought just 2-3 weeks ago, I stopped doing that in favor of the writing, the important thing, because my VA, she's in Eastern time. I'm in Atlantic time. I've got that extra hour. Will it matter that much if I answer these messages in 2 hours or right now? Will it make that much of a difference?
Nope.
To use up my mental battery on this? Do the important things first. And another part of me says, oh, well, I want to get it off my brain. I don't want to have to worry about it. And I get that. I totally understand. I'm sure you do too. We won't, but it's another form of the shiny object syndrome that you talk about. There are so many shiny objects that aren't even really very shiny, frankly, but they're there. They're distracting. And that's an entrepreneur's worst nightmare. That is why it's very difficult to, without proper discipline and focus. And perhaps someone, a coach like yourself, to say, okay, what did you do today? Or what did you do in the last week? Walk me through your day. How are you spending your time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a client once, we had been through several sessions, a small business owner, and we were talking about this whole time management thing, and I something clicked with me, and I don't know why I hadn't asked him or seen, and I said, would you mind flipping your machine around, share your screen, show me your calendar, show me what your calendar looks like. And he goes, okay. And he flipped the screen, and he's an Outlook user, and so here the nice pretty calendar pops up, blank. There wasn't a thing on it. And I said, okay, now I know our problem. I said, you, my friend, have no intentionality in anything you're doing. You're talking about wanting to meet with your guys to do some training. You're talking about wanting to develop a certain this, and there's an area of your business that needs your attention, and so on and so on and so on. I said, put it on the calendar. I said, start using the calendar as your friend to organize these things and get progress mapped to the end game. And he said, okay. And he started doing that. And as with any behavioral change, it took some time, because we get in these habits of the way we operate, and we have to change that thinking and clear out some of that head trash about it. And remember, oh, I got to put it on the calendar. And he started telling his team, he said, book some time with me. I want
Right.
you've got access to my calendar. You now can see when I'm available. And if it's showing available, you can book it. It's an open invitation. So his team started doing that. And so he's already we've worked together about a year and a half. He's already doubled his business, and he's well on his way to a 3X of where we first started. So real happy for him in the progress he's making. But it is that idea of being intentional and creating some margin and getting that clutter out of your brain, clearing that clutter, as your sign says.
Absolutely.
Folks, if you're listening on audio, there's a sign in Kitti's background picture that says, "Clear the clutter, calm the chaos." And I think that's your mantra, isn't it? Is that your tagline?
Absolutely. Yes, it's one of them. It's my main one, because frankly, it espouses what I do, how I believe that if you do clear, whether it's any kind of clutter, then that you will clear the chaos. Is it all going to go away? No, I'm afraid not. Unless your magic wand is much better than mine, it's not all going to go away.
Right.
But you will see a significant difference. And we declutter. With my clients, they come to me with physical clutter. They say, I don't know what to do, where to start. And then within 2 or 3 sessions, they're about an hour long, things start to emerge where they're not getting as well along with their husband or their kids, or their job is suffering because they're not feeling good about themselves. Your health. Declutter your health, declutter your habits, declutter your heart, meaning your relationships, and your head, and of course your home. All of these things interact. And this goes back to feng shui. Feng shui, 3,500 years science. It says first thing you have to, and don't even start practicing this until you've cleared the clutter.
Yeah, get it out. Well, Kitty, I think that's a good note to put a bow on this. I really appreciate you joining us and being on this show. Tell folks the best way to get a hold of you if they're looking for more information.
Thank you. Well, can go to Facebook, Kitti Andrews, or the absolute easiest, most comprehensive way is just go to declutterthebrain.com. There's a PDF there, 7 easy steps to conquer your physical and mental clutter. They can book a call. Everything is right there in one easy step.
Nice.
Declutterthebrain.com.
Very good. Well, I really appreciate it, Kitty. And all of that link and contact info will be in our show notes. So as always, feel free to check that out. So again, one last time, Kitty, thanks for sharing with us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Well, and folks, we are going to wrap this up, and I want to remind everybody that if you're listening on your favorite audio, we do have a video version of this over on YouTube, channel by the same name, Leadership Powered by Common Sense. Hop over there, subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, let us know how we're doing, let me know if you've got an idea for a new episode. I'm always open to suggestions or volunteers. If you or someone you know would be a good guest, and just drop me a line, let me know, and we'd love to hear from you. For now, we're going to sign off, say goodbye, and wish you a great day.
You've been listening to Leadership Powered by Common Sense, hosted by Doug Thorpe. If you would like to know more about the coaching and advisory services he provides, visit dougthorpe.com.